trying to tell me you holding a Confederate flag, which your history would be nothing without mine, and you scared to even go on a Black History tour.
All right,
I'll invite you.
We set you free. We didn't start slavery, we ended it. And you should be grateful for that.
Who is we?
White people.
Really?
We ended slavery. While slavery still exists in Africa,
what's your name? Hold on
why
a
don't
second. you
get on your brothers in Africa and tell them to end slavery?
Listen, first of all, I was born in America.
And please stop spitting, like control yourself.
What's your name, man? You on Facebook? I got you on Facebook Live. What's your name?
My name is Jason. What's your
Jason, I'm Don. I want to invite you on the DC Black History Night Tour. Would you come? You can bring your
I've heard
boy.
enough about Black history.
Okay.
That's all they talk about in the schools and run my people
Really?
down.
What school is that? What school they talk about? Tell me some Black history you know about
Let me
DC.
ask you about Abraham Lincoln. What do you think? Do you think he's a great emancipator? Did he end slavery? Is that what you think?
Who did, if he didn't?
No, I'm asking you a question. Do you think that Abraham Lincoln ended
slavery? Who wrote the
slavery?
legislation?
He didn't. The only thing Abraham Lincoln did was end slavery in the South. He kept slavery in the North. The Civil War was a war of northern aggression, plain and simple. He had no moral high ground. He was no great emancipator. He was a tyrant, sick Semper Tyrannis.
You say Jason is your name? You say Jason is your name?
Robert E. Lee and the Confederate veterans were the legacy of George Washington, of Thomas Jefferson, of all the founding fathers. These traitors,
I want you to say,
these traitors that have sold out our country to illegal immigration and Islamic terrorism, they are not in the founding fathers' vision.
My man, you're talking. Talk to me.
You're just talking over me, bro.
Talk to me.
You're not having a conversation.
Talk to me.
You're just being belligerent.
Tell me some Black history you know about DC. Tell me some Black history you know. You probably don't even live here. And you won't come up in here and tell us what we need to be doing.
To be honest with you,
you know what I'm saying? You don't.
To be honest with you, I don't care about Black history in DC.
Oh, you don't?
No, I don't.
So
I care about the history of my people.
White people?
I don't. It doesn't mean it doesn't matter. I support your right to acknowledge your history. So why do you have a problem with me acknowledging mine? That's all I'm saying.
Nothing without mine.
Humans.
Your history would be nothing without mine, sir. If it was not for Black people, Confederates would not have a damn history.
White people founded this country.
Do you understand that?
White people founded this country. It's a product of Western civilization,
which
we started
here.
You guys have been treated way better here than you are in Africa, that's for sure.
Really?
Yes.
What history book you getting out of? Come on, my tour. The DC Black History Night tour. Will you come? Will you come?
You're just being a shameless self-promoter. No, I don't want to.
I want you to get a different view of DC. You like the view?
It's a beautiful view.
Man, let me get him a little.
There's the Capitol building.
Yeah. Just give him a little bit. But Jason, man, let's me and you let's have an honest dialogue here.
Sure.
Man, tell me something. Is this the best thank you could give to your parents for the time and energy that they have invested in you to come out and be a part of this kind of movement that you are? Because I'm sure they're not satisfied.
Well, I don't think getting into personal stuff about people's family is really the most constructive way to go. I think that it's more instructive that you've got this beautiful church here, which is part of the Black civil rights history of Washington, D.C. And I think a good place to start is just with learning about things like this and appreciating your community.
But wait a minute now, hold on a second. But we're gonna get to that. But you know, you see, when I first told you this is gonna be a little uncomfortable, I told you that, and it's gonna be uncomfortable for me as well. All right, and to dig around the root, like you spent 4 years in the University of Virginia, and I'm just saying to come out and have this kind of viewpoint, Jason, you know, help us understand why.
Well, part of the problem is I don't think that people know what my viewpoint is because I'm only reported through this media, which is sort of filtering out a lot of the stuff that makes me a human being and the things that people like you and me might agree on. And then they're sort of playing up these things that they think are going to create division. So a lot of this is people aren't really engaging with each other face to face like you and I are right now. We're engaging each other through this very artificial media that's ginning up this conflict between Black people and white people, Republicans, Democrats, and so on and so forth. And that gets to the heart of why I wanted to meet with you today, because I don't want it to be a situation like what happened with my rally in 2017, where people are shouting over each other, they're not listening, or they're even worse, they're fighting in the streets. I think that we're better than that, and I think we can be better than that. That's one of my hopes and goals for 2019.
That's one of your hopes and goals, but okay. So how can I help you, Jason?
Just by teaching me about what it's like to be a black person in Washington, D.C., teaching me about the civil rights movement so that I can learn to be a better advocate for my people in a way that's constructive and is keeping with the legacy of civil rights, which was pioneered by people like Martin Luther King.
I mean, just give you a good example now to show you the differences in our lifestyle. You know, here your father, you went out, had this rally, there was some tragedy behind it, and you were able to go back home. Your lifestyle really hasn't changed.
No, it's changed dramatically, and that's one of the things that people don't get to see because of the media, because those are the humanizing things. I've had a lot of tragedy, and I do think that there are a lot of parallels between what I'm trying to do for white people and what black people had to go through in the 1960s. I mean, the media relentlessly... Let me explain it to you.
Please explain that parallel. Explain that, please.
Well, the media relentlessly brought my family into this whole thing, and they have nothing to do with my politics. People were coming to my family's home and slashing their tires. They were coming to their homes with torches, and that's the kind of thing that
and why do you think they were doing
to black people. Because they wanted to terrorize me. They're terrorists.
They're terrorists.
But besides that...
Did your views have anything to do with it, Jason?
Like I said, I don't think that people understand my views because they see that rally that happened and they hear the knuckleheads who came out there and were saying Jews suck or whatever. And that's not my point of view.
So what does Unite the Right stand for?
Well, what I was trying to do is stand up for American history. You and I are revering different parts of history, but I think that we can respect one another's history. And I also wanted to stand up against what I see as an ethnic cleansing of white people happening around the world. And that's a dramatic population decline in the United States and Europe, where we're going to become minorities in our own countries, but yet we're not going to be able to advocate for ourselves. So it's a different situation to be a white person in 2019 than it's ever been. Maybe we didn't need organizations like the NAACP for black people years ago, because we obviously weren't being discriminated against in the same way as black people are. But things are very different. There's a lot of hatred towards my people, and we have our own civil rights issues.
Okay, so hold on a second, man, because I done gave you a chance to spill a lot of stuff that I want to address. Mm-hmm. Okay, white people got a bloody footprint all over this world. Mm-hmm. First of all, your American history is flawed and is a lie. Okay, if we want to really deal with the racism in America, we're going to have to deal with this flawed American history. That's a lie that we're teaching. Otherwise, everything still stay the same, Jason.
Well,
as far as your people are concerned, man, that's Washington City over there. Mm-hmm. As a black man, if I was free, I had to have 3 white people to vouch for me and put up a $5 peace bond.
Yeah.
And you talk about your rights are being trampled on. Come on, man.
Well, like I said, there's a difference between what's happened in the past and what happened now, but that doesn't take away from the pain that you suffered, and that's something that people like me should respect and listen to.
Changed,
and I'm
Jason.
willing to listen to you. That's why I'm here.
But what I'm telling you, Jason, it hasn't changed. The modern day slave catcher is the pattern for the police department, Jason. Mm-hmm. That's why they shoot black men and ask questions later.
Well, I've had my own problems with police departments. You know, when Martin Luther King in the 1960s...
Hold on a second. Let me ask you a question.
Well, let me explain this, because this is an important part of understanding who I am and where I see that we have some commonalities. In the 1960s, Martin Luther King would go into the segregation era South, and he would demonstrate with the Freedom Riders, right? And a lot of times you had local governments which would violently oppress Martin Luther King and the Freedom Riders. They would allow violence to happen to them because they didn't respect Mr. King or any of black people's rights to speak up for themselves. So when I went and did that rally in Charlottesville, granted, there were people who said very hateful things at times, but this was a yearning of a people to speak up for themselves, and they don't have a voice and they don't know a way to do it yet. That Charlottesville government, it was investigated by their own prosecutor, Tim Hafey, and he found that the police department didn't respect free speech. They should have kept the two sides separate. Whether you're black, white, Asian, Jewish, whatever you are, you should have been able to go to that rally peacefully and express yourself. And they didn't allow that to happen. They pushed the two sides into each other, and there was violence.
Jason, let me ask you a question, man. What really happened to you at the University of Virginia? What happened to you, man, for you to come out with this kind of hate in your heart?
No, I really don't have hate.
Seriously.
I think
but I mean, for this twisted viewpoint you got, that's the last highest education that you receive is from the University of Virginia. And my friend, you done came out pretty twisted.
Well, I think
why?
No, I mean, I think that the first thing to do is just to understand one another. And I don't think that we necessarily understand one another, because I understand that you're angry because you've had pain in your life, some of which has been caused by racial discrimination towards African Americans.
Do you think white folk have been fair to blacks in America?
Not all of them have been, but see, I'm not white folk. I'm Jason Kessler, and I'm trying to represent white people in 2019. I'm not trying to represent the things that they did in the past as right.
But if you're not white folk, why do you care about representing white people?
Because I think that that's the fair thing to do in a society where every other racial group is allowed to have representatives. You know, black people have the NAACP, and other groups.
And see what
Jewish
concerns
people
me,
have
Jason,
the ADL.
What concerns me, white people already got the upper hand. What are you representing?
Well,
they already got the upper hand.
But see, that's part
So
of
what are you representing?
Well, that's part of the thing that's hard for us to understand about one another, is certainly there are some wealthy white people who do have the upper hand. Many of them are right there in Washington, D.C., but I'm not like those people. I'm from a working class family. When I was growing up, we had roaches crawling around on the floors.
Did your father sell a company for $750 million when he was 26 years old? Is that the same Eric Kessler?
Definitely not. My father got into a car accident when I was in my mother's womb, and he's been disabled his whole life.
So in other words, somebody done put up some erroneous information on the internet about you.
Yeah,
so that's not your father.
That's not an unusual thing.
That's not your father. In other words, that Eric Kessler is not your father.
No, my father really has never had a job. He had a job as a substitute school teacher briefly when I was a teenager. But other than that, he's been on disability SSI for my entire life.
So is this the best thank you that you can give him?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't really want to make this about my family. They have their own political views. I have my own political views. But I think that we're still stuck in a situation where we're sort of talking past each other. Because you're, I think, rightfully angry about the discrimination that has happened to African Americans in this country. And the media has propped me up to be a representative of that. And that's not what I want to be. Those people who came to my rally, they themselves have been smeared, a lot of them. But certainly there were some bad people there who got into fights that they shouldn't have gotten into. Certainly no one deserved to be hurt for going out and expressing their rights. I don't think that it was fair to Jewish people to have people say Jews will not replace us and all this other stuff. But you got to understand, that's not me.
But you've never gotten on television and apologized.
Well, I've tried to go on television and talk about a lot of things. I've tried to apologize for the insensitive comments I made about Heather Heyer, but the problem is that I'm too valuable for some very powerful interests as a hate figure, as a cartoon.
So right here, right now, if you could speak to Heather Heyer's mother, what would you say?
Of course I would.
If face to face, Jason.
Yeah, I hope that I have that opportunity one day to meet her face to face, and I hope that she can forgive me for my insensitive comments. It was completely uncalled for.
So extend the invitation right now to Mrs. Heyer.
Yes.
Extend it to her right now that you would like to meet her any place, any time.
Well, I think that I have people who are already reaching out to her.
Jason,
and I would be happy to speak with her. Susan
Extend it, Jason. Mrs. Heyer.
Consider it extended.
I would meet you any place, any time.
Yeah, I'd be happy to meet with Heather Heyer's mother. I think that it's a good idea. it's a tragedy what happened. It's a very complicated situation, and I'm sure that her emotions are still raw about that. But if there's anything that I can do to help ease the suffering, of course, I'm open to that.
Now listen, man. I'm in talks with John Wesley AME Zion to put on a program with you. Are you willing to come?
I'm willing to do a lot of different stuff to further dialogue in 2019. I'm really interested in that. Like I said, I think that the most important thing that I can contribute is speaking to people like yourself, speaking to people in the community in Washington, D.C. of different ethnic groups, and helping us come to a better understanding, because there's something that we get when we're face to face that we don't necessarily get when we're just listening to the little sound bites that are coming through the media.
Man, I appreciate this.
Yep, I appreciate it.
We'll be in touch.
Yeah.
Now tell people. Yes, sir.
How did y'all meet?
I walked up on his rally when he was at Martin Luther King. Down with the KKK. I got a picture of it.
No, I wasn't with the KKK.
You had
I was at
the rally at the Lincoln Memorial.
At the Lincoln Memorial, Richard Spencer and some other people were doing a rally. And
I walked up in that camp, man, and invited him on my tour.
Yeah,
he refused, but he took a picture with me. he refused, man. He took a selfie with me. Yeah.
More recently, you were telling me some story.
No, I text him Happy New Year. And he said, we need to talk. And I said, man, let's have lunch.
Yeah.
And he said, let's talk. We need to talk about the stuff that's going on in America. Yeah. And here we are. And hope this is the beginning.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is...
and to give you a little history of the
I was happy that Don reached out to me, because it's sort of keeping with a theme for 2019. I've been in talks with a number of people who are civil rights leaders here in the Washington, D.C. area. I've even met with a guy who's a former extremist with Al-Qaeda, who's de-radicalized, and he's helping to prevent violence by encouraging dialogue. And so I'm hoping to meet with people like Don. I'm working with an organization called Institute for Strategic Dialogue, and we're hoping to do an event where I talk with people from different walks of life later in January.
Hey, listen, man, do you think you can get some of your extremist white friends to go on my tour?
I mean, I'll encourage my friends. I don't know.
I want some of them extremists, man. I want some of them extremists. Tell them I ain't scared, and I'm going to be by myself, too.
Well, the extremists really aren't too happy with me either, because I've denounced those neo-Nazis who came to the 2017 rally, and they hate me for that. You know, they call me all kinds of names. They threaten me. So I get threatened by the far left and the far right. But anybody that I meet that really wants to learn how to do civil rights the right way, if they're interested in representing white people, needs to learn about the struggles of African Americans. That's my feeling, because you guys did it the right way, and you had a spiritual struggle. There was a lot of overcoming, and by and large, a lot of it was nonviolent. So that's the method to emulate.
Jason, man, I'm gonna give you a chance. But dude, I'm gonna tell you straight up, if I find you bullshitting me, I'm gonna drop you like a hot potato.
Okay, that's the deal then.
Okay?
All right.
All right?
That's the deal.
Do you mind if I interject a quick question?
Yes, sir.
So I've stuck on a flash drive this footage because I thought it might be interesting. So I can share that with ABC after. I remember you two interacting with each other on June 25th, 2017.
Right.
Jason was holding a Confederate flag.
A Confederate flag.
And you were holding your DC Black Tours sign.
Yeah.
And it seemed like your disagreement was basically over the role of the Confederacy, sort of in history. I haven't heard that term come up here, but I think that's kind of, at least for Jason, the theme that's kind of caused a lot of this. How has your views evolved at all on the Confederacy itself? And to you, what do you actually think about it? Because the dialogue kind of fell apart when you tried to have it that one time at the Lincoln Memorial.
Well, I think the Confederacy is really a red herring. You're really talking about the history of America generally, because a lot of people who are going to have problems with Robert E. Lee and the Confederacy are also going to have problems with the Founding Fathers, some of whom owned slaves, and then generally with Western civilization, which had people owning slaves and colonization and this kind of stuff. So I think that I can be proud of the history of my people without excusing some of the things that weren't keeping with our modern conception of human rights.
So tell me something, Jason. why is it in white America, when I am pro-black, it is deemed anti-white from people like you? Why is that?
Well, not necessarily people like me.
Okay, why do white folk seem like when I'm pro-black, man, my history is dying on the vine, all right? And I'm trying to, how your history dying on the vine when it's the only thing that's in the history books?
They're taking it away from us.
My stuff is not in the history. Maybe they telling the truth, Jason.
But
maybe what they're taking away is a lie, Jason.
But
have you ever thought about that?
But all I can start with is myself. Is that I'm happy to learn about your history. You were telling me a little bit about this before we had our meeting. I mean, and I was Googling some of the events.
Listen, like right down at the bottom of the hill was called Uniontown. Uniontown was for white folk only. Created by John Van Hook of the Navy Yard for the white workers.
Right.
Frederick Douglass was the first person to integrate this area over here, man. Now get some of your way. We can't tell everybody. Look, y'all, I see y'all. Bye. Now, I'm done.
Yeah.
Look here, man. We gonna continue this.
Yeah, we'll keep having a conversation.
Okay. You got any more questions?
I don't. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. And thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that kind of all you're doing? Are you touring something?
No, we gonna nah. I'm done with him.
Well, all right. For now.
You want to do a tour?
I was hoping we get to learn.
Thought that was.
Can we learn a little bit about that?
Yeah, come on, man. Come on. Let me throw this in the chair. I'll teach you.
Show us how it worked. Like, were there tunnels or what?
Come on, I'll teach you something, man. I'll show you something. Hell yeah. Bring the chair, man.
I'm still live, by the way, guys. Just so you know,
That's
you're
okay,
on the.
man. It don't matter. Be live. Be live. Okay, come on. Get up in the car, Jason.
Oh, are we doing?
Oh, we taking a drive?
Yeah, get in the car, man. You know what? Come here, let me show you something. I can show you something right here. I ain't gotta take you nowhere. Come here. All right. Look here, man.
Yeah.
Give you a little brief history of the city real quick. Okay? Now, this is Fort Stanton, where we are right here. Named after Secretary of War Edward Stanton. You see all of these forts that are around the city during the Civil War. Now, when Thomas Jefferson was the Secretary of State, we're on the Greenwich Meridian time. He wanted to establish an American meridian. The front door of the White House opens up to the North Star. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, let me show you. You see this line right here? This is a straight north-south line. See right here, man, this is 16th Street. From the front door of the White House all the way up to the Maryland line, that's a straight north-south line. There are more churches and Masonic temples on 16th Street than anywhere in the world.
I've seen some.
Now listen to me now. Listen to what I'm telling you. If you go down on 16th Street and face the White House and literally stand on the two yellow lines, you'll be right in front of the front door. Okay? That's the first American meridian in Washington, D.C. Okay. You need to take my tour, man.
I will.
You need to take my tour so I can show you something.
Yeah.
All right? So when you get out here and you start talking, you can talk about more than Dr. King. Okay?
Sure.
All right?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. That's what I'm talking about.
This is Fort Stanton.
This is Fort Stanton.
This area.
Yes.
Okay.
And this was
this church. Do you know how long it's been here?
it'll be 100 years, man. They moved up here in 1920.
You know Miss Hawkins, Hannah Hawkins.
Yeah, I know Hannah Hawkins.
That was her church. She died a few years ago.
Yeah, I know Hannah. Yeah.
So how did the Underground Railroad work around here?
Now, man, listen, let me tell you something. Listen to me.
Tunnels or what?
See, that's how we tricked y'all. The Underground Railroad was a code system. See, most folk don't know there are 5 Underground Railroad stops on the Ohio State University. Did you know that?
No.
Okay, nobody knows that. There are people that's done graduated from Ohio State. The Underground Railroad was nothing but a code system. What do you mean a code system? This place was called Good Hope. If you came to D.C., go to Good Hope or Heron Hill, because rarely would you see a Georgiaman in Good Hope or Heron Hill. You know what I just said? If you go to D.C., go to Southeast or Georgetown. because rarely would you see the slave catcher in them two areas. You see the code?
Right.
Okay, it was a code system. And if you didn't understand the code, they would leave you where you were.
So did people get here on foot, or were they traveling by horse, or what?
Oh man, come on, man. We were slaves, Jason. Come on, man.
But when they met the people, when they gave the code, did somebody pick them up?
Do I look like a conductor?
Yeah.
Okay, a conductor run things.
Yeah.
Okay, so you had conductors on the Underground Railroad. Okay, that would tell you go here, go there, hide here, slip there.
One interesting thing, Don, I don't know if you do Georgetown.
Yes,
but
I do.
The Methodist church over there, and I've spoken at that church before, but one of the very interesting things was they have, if you drive along Rock Creek Park, you see a cemetery up on the hill.
Mount Zion Cemetery, man.
Mount Zion.
That's one of my stops. That's on my stop.
Okay.
That was a stop on the Underground Railroad.
One of the things, because they had their 200th anniversary recently, and they had an area for, apparently in the wintertime, it was too...
It's a vault.
It was, well, in the wintertime, it was too, the ground was too hard to dig graves.
Right.
So they kept the bodies in there until spring when
in
they
a vault,
could dig.
Yes.
And so what they did, they used that.
Yeah, they used that to hide.
They used that to hide slaves, and they said they never had a person caught.
And you remember I said when you go to Heron Hill, see where he's talking about is on Heron Hill. Is Mount Zion Cemetery. I'm gonna have to take you up there, man, to show you. Now you know, if you want to be free, and you hide in with some dead bodies, you really gotta want to be free.
You know, the thing that really interests me is the protest, because I like going to protests, I like organizing them, and there's got to be some really heroic moments of protest here in Washington D.C., right? There's like the 100-man march and other
There's some
things,
stuff
right?
before that though, man. See, I gotta get you caught up, man. I gotta get you out of that old dead history book you in.
So what's a good protest that you can educate me
I
on?
just gave you two. I gave you two protests the other day. What two protests I
you're
gave?
talking about the riots, right?
The snow riots of 1835 and the red summer riots of 1919.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to try and avoid riots going forward.
But you need to learn about them things, man.
Yeah. I'll learn about it.
You need to learn about this stuff. All right? And when you're with me, you're going to be okay. You ain't got to be worrying about nobody messing with you.
Yeah, I'm never worried about that.
All right.
So Don
was
a candidate for mayor, did he tell you?
I did run for mayor against Marion Barry.
Oh, you did?
Yes, sir.
You didn't win.
No, I didn't win, but I did run.
Okay. That's a good thing.
Okay.
Got to take your shot, man.
Did you run against, was that the year?
That was the year. Yeah, John Ray, man. That was the year. Yeah, 1994, yeah.
So you were born in D.C.?
No, I'm from Alabama, man.
Okay.
I'm a country boy. I come up here just to get right outside of Birmingham, just to run into some jokers like you. My grandmama prepared me for you, boy. Don't you know that? My grandmama prepared me for you, man. I'm telling you. You think I'm joking? I'm showing you, man. You're gonna turn your life around.
Come on, I'm not as bad as they said I was, am I?
But you see.
I'm here. I'm listening to you, and this is the important thing.
But
you might not agree with everything that I have to say, and I might not agree with everything you have to say.
You need somebody.
Here, right?
But you need somebody to help you show that you're not as bad as you say you are. That can tolerate you. See, everybody can tolerate you, my friend. Okay, I can tolerate you. That's the difference.
Hey, I think a lot of people could if they gave me a chance. But if I was the person that I was made out to be in the media, of course I would be a bad person, but that's not who I am.
Okay. All right, man. You still alive, man?
Still alive.
DCBlackTours.com. DCBlackTours.com. Say, look, since the federal government is closed up, man, y'all need to take my tour because, see, I'll give you the history of the city and you ain't got to go in no museums and you'll still get a good tour.
Don, do you think you see common ground with Jason? That's something he's been saying
Several
several times.
Absolutely.
He thinks he sees some
man,
agreement with you. What do you agree with him on?
If I didn't think that there was common ground with this guy, I wouldn't even be up here. I wouldn't even waste my time. Okay? America needs this. See, if corporate America was smart, they would get around and say, man, I need you to come up here and talk. I need y'all to get out and talk and have an honest conversation. if they were smart. But we'll see.
And
Okay.
Don, what would you say to the Black Lives Matter or the Antifa type people who talk about like no platforming? Like there's a lot of people who would be mad at you or mad at me for filming or talking to Jason in the first place. How do you feel about
I
those
really don't give a shit. And I don't give a shit because we're all on the same ship. And if my half of the ship go down, his half ain't gonna stay afloat. Man, we got to start saving this country, man. You know, all this division and separatism and all this other stuff, what has it gotten you? Nothing.
Well, the shut it down thing is part of what's exacerbating these problems we have as a country, not only leading to violence like what happened at my rally, because when people stop talking to each other, the only thing left is violence, but also you look at the polarization that's happening in the country more generally right now. And of course, people are always going to disagree on things, but I think that it's pretty unprecedented how bad it's gotten. And that's because people don't even know what one another think anymore. You know, we have
So how you feel about the wall,
different
Jason?
media that we can listen to, so we never have to listen to disagreeing
How
opinions.
you feel about the wall, Jason?
I think it's important.
You think the wall is important?
Yeah, absolutely.
Man, you out your cotton picking mind.
No.
You know why?
Well, you know who also supported
me
a wall?
you want me to tell
Barack
you why?
Obama.
Wait a minute, you want me
Chuck
to tell you why
Schumer,
you out your cotton
Bill
picking
Clinton.
mind? All they gonna do is dig under it.
No, I mean they have lots of.
Now tell me something, Jason.
If a
Wait a
wall
minute,
wasn't
Jason.
effective, they wouldn't use
Jason,
it
tell
in
me
Israel,
something, man.
the Vatican.
Jason,
and
tell me something.
Mexico
now.
itself has a
Hold
wall.
on, tell me something, Jason. How is it that you got people gonna come over here that can't even speak English, don't know your laws, but yet they holding you hostage and saying you want to build a wall? They don't know nothing about your country, but they got you scared to build a wall. What kind of sense is that?
Well,
Tell me what kind of sense is that, sir?
Well, we got to have a wall because you know who's being hurt the hardest are the impoverished, both black and white and Latino too. People who are working class are being hurt by illegal immigration. It drives down the wages.
So, Jason, what about them people coming over here to get jobs that Americans no longer want? You don't talk about them. What about them, Jason? They just coming over here to get jobs Americans no longer want.
I don't agree
When
with
the
that.
last time you saw American in the field?
I think that if a job is bad enough that people don't want to do it, raise the pay until there are people who
When
will
the
want to
last
do it.
time you
But
saw
if-
an American
but
in
if-
the field,
if
Jason?
But if the companies are allowed to cheat, and that's who's really in favor
And
of this
who's
illegal
running the
immigration
countries, Jason?
more than anybody
White
else.
people.
It's not just white people. It's a lot of different people. But yes, I mean, there's a problem
Who
with white
runs
people.
America, Jason?
It's
Who runs America, Jason?
It's a lot of different people.
Jason,
It's not just white people.
Who runs America, Jason? You can't even say it.
White and Jewish people run America for the most part.
Really?
The wealthy white and Jewish people are the ones who
So
are behind
tell me
a lot of
something,
these
Jason.
things.
Why are you giving me so much hell if they the ones running the country, Jason?
I'm
why
not
you
giving you
giving
hell.
us so much hell?
I think-
why your people giving us so much hell, Jason?
I think that that's part of the misunderstanding that we have is I don't think that black and brown people are the problem. I think that, of course, there are issues in every community, but I think we have a lot more in common than we have to disagree with. Like, I'm a working class person. I've worked with black people all of my life, and I know that we have got to have sensible immigration enforcement because those jobs that I've done with black people, white people, Hispanic people, they are in danger. Not only are a lot of these jobs already being shipped overseas, outsourced,
Who outsourcing them, Jason? And why are they outsourcing
the
them,
wealthy,
Jason?
the elites.
Okay.
And so that's not just a racial thing. That's a thing.
But you're
that's
making it racial though, man.
The only color that those people respect is green, and so they're selling out their own country. That's the
All
problem.
right. Man, we gonna continue this. We ain't gonna give it all. But look, man, anytime I'm working on John Wesley, okay? AME Zion.
Okay.
All right, we're gonna
All right.
sit down. Y'all hear that, John Wesley, AME Zion? We gonna see can we have a sit down up there, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I got a lady that's gonna play some good music to atmosphere. You ain't got to worry about nothing. We're gonna have an honest conversation.
Okay.
All right? Is that agreeable? And anything
Sure.
I help, I promise you, man. I'll help you.
I'm
do
willing to
anything.
listen to anything. You know, we
Okay.
might not always agree on everything, but I
expect
think
us to.
the first step is just to listen to one another.
Okay. All right? That's the first step. Man, y'all want to take a picture of this? You want to take a picture?
pictures.
Oh, you. Oh.